Hi, my name is Alyssa. My show is called Dished. It is a scripted series, drama and comedy. I would ideally like it to be more of a comedy than a drama, but obviously things have to take place. It is a show set in Austin, Texas, that takes place in a steakhouse that is kind of falling apart by the seams. And it's based on real life experiences. I've been in the service industry since I was 15, and so I've just seen a lot of things go down. You meet a lot of people and you see everything happen inside of restaurants. It's crazy. And most of the people that I've worked with have always said that we need a reality show or we need some kind of TV show because this is crazy. Somebody needs to know everything that happens. I also think this is different than other service industry shows because um, I think they like to highlight the stress that comes from working in the service industry, but I really would like to focus on the comedy aspect and just like the crazy things that happen, but have it in like a brighter, lighter, funnier way. Because I feel like I always wanted to watch something relatable, but it was always a little bit too relatable, like it was just too stressful and too high intensity, like when I was at work. So I never really felt like I was winding down. So I wanted something that I could just laugh at, but also relate to. And this is where Dished was born. So it follows the staff of a high-end steakhouse that is falling apart day by day. Each episode begins with a pre-shift meeting, which is also something that most restaurants that I've worked in have followed pre-shift as just kind of a thing. It's a meeting at the beginning of the shift where managers tell you this is what we're sold out of, this is what we're offering, these are the specials for the night, and they just kind of like let you know what to expect for the night, how many reservations there are, all the good stuff. And so ideally, I would like to start each episode with the pre-shift meeting where the manager warns the staff of all the possible problems that could happen. Of course, of like what we're sold out of, the typical things that a manager would say. But I would really just like these meetings to foreshadow how the episode is going to go because, of course, we're manifesting, you know, hey guys, look out for the ceiling, it's leaking. And then, of course, the ceiling is going to like crash in on top of a table. And, you know, it's got to be dramatic and it's got to be funny. So let's get to the meat and potatoes. Again, the restaurant is, it's based on a restaurant that I've worked at for 3 years. And I think it wouldn't work if it wasn't set in Austin because of the specific things that I would see. The restaurant that I worked at was right outside of a music venue, but also in the heart of downtown. So we would see like people going to concerts. We would see people coming in before their prom. We would have corporate dinners. Um, we would get bachelor parties, bachelorette parties. And so you just have such a mixture of people that, and they're all in one dark restaurant. You, you're picking up what I'm putting down. You see a lot of people. And so, keeping it in Austin, Texas felt necessary for the show to work. Um, the restaurant's been standing for 12 years. The heating and air conditioning never work. This was also something I had to deal with at the restaurant that I worked at. The servers are either pushing 90 years old, so they're super old grandpas that are like very slow and need to retire, or you've got the college students who are just here for a good time, need to pay their rent and pay for their drinks, and are like vaping in the kitchen and do not care about, giving good service. The restaurant doesn't have a chef because the owner is very cheap and is constantly making budget cuts. Also, the brand new computer system never works. These are all problems that I have faced at um, restaurants that I've worked at in the past. And so I thought might as well write about them. I've got 8 episodes down. Pilot would be your traditional introductory episode. Um, where you kind of meet the characters and get comfortable with Ken's Steakhouse. Valentine's Day, I felt was a must because it's the busiest night for a restaurant, specifically a steakhouse. And of course, something has to go wrong. Heating, we've got a problem would be an episode surrounding um, like a freezing cold day outside, and the heaters just don't work. And the solution that the manager provided was to um, place tea lights on the tables and hope that it would warm everyone up. ACL Festival, I thought would bring in a good mix of a different crowd, people either like going to the festival, trying to get away from the festival, or just foreigners in general. I thought that would be really cool. We could also have servers just like not coming in on like a very busy night because they decided to go to the festival. The Missing Bottle is based on a manager that I worked for who had a really bad drinking problem and would often disappear into the liquor closet. And eventually he did get fired because there was a empty bottle of tequila found in the closet, and he was the only one with access to the closet, so he had to go. The water boil notice is when you live in when you're like within city limits, sometimes something happens to the water, it gets contaminated, and you go on a water boil notice. Well, this does happen in restaurants. It's happened several times throughout my career, and it is such a pain. And I think people who have also experienced this in the restaurant industry would really, really relate to an episode like this. It just makes everything 10 times harder, and it makes things take longer because you're waiting for water to boil to make sure that it's not contaminated, or you're ordering purified water from wherever you can get it. But every restaurant in town is also ordering water because that is obviously easier than boiling water. And so tables get frustrated because everything is taking longer, but they don't understand that the water's contaminated. You can't even like pour them um, tap water in their water glasses. You've got to, it's a process, and I think it would be really relatable for people who also work in the service industry that would want to watch the show. Health Inspector is another one. Um, it would be an episode where the inspector just shows up unannounced like they usually do, and the kitchen just isn't prepared or ready. And you've got people scrambling, putting their uniforms on right, hiding their vapes and putting their food away, and then the servers just like don't care. It, that's usually how it goes. And When It Rains, It Pours is a story about a time when it rained so terribly one night, and the management knew that there were a few potential leaky zones, and so they had set out these buckets that weren't very large to begin with, and the leaky zones became caved in ceiling. It was so bad. It was essentially raining inside of the restaurant. And I don't think my managers ended up going home until around 4 in the morning because the water damage was so bad. And the restaurant still just opened up the next day as if nothing had happened. It was crazy. Alrighty. Let's introduce our cast here. We've got Steve as our general manager. I don't have a dream cast when it comes to actors. I don't. It doesn't have to be anybody specific. They've just got to nail the role, you know? Um, Steve is our general manager. He's the person who's leading those pre-shift meetings at the beginning of every episode and essentially manifesting everything wrong that can go down. Um, He's that creepy uncle with terrible breath, who's in massive, massive credit card debt, which is why he does what he does. Um, he's a college dropout with a cocaine addiction and a rage problem, and he never really learned how to work with people or speak to people. So he's just kind of not a great person. And he's been working for Ken's Steakhouse for the last 8 years. And then we have Bill, our lead server. He's in his 60s. He's been at Ken's Steakhouse for 6 years, and he's just that grumpy grandpa. But you also just love him so much because he's everyone's grumpy grandpa. And so he's like always making random mistakes and confusing his tables and like he's always confused, but you can't be mad at him because he's Bill, and everybody loves him. Um, and then we've got Tony, the bar manager. He runs a really tight ship and he's a great bartender. And he brings in all of the high dollar regulars. Again, it's set in downtown Austin. So you've got some people that are wanting to spend their money and they want to spend their money with Tony. And so he kind of he runs a tight ship and he makes sure that his regulars are always taken care of, which also makes them very spoiled. So when he's not there, it creates some issues. We've got Biggie, our sous chef. Reminder, we don't have a chef because of budget cuts. He's a father of three children, has been at Ken's for 5 years. He's never had a day off, and he runs the kitchen seamlessly every night, regardless if his staff has 10 members or 3 members. Um, Biggie is amazing. Everybody loves him, and he does cut corners sometimes. So you get a little stressed out for him, and you wonder if he's going to get caught. Um, his meat count might be off, or sometimes he doesn't clean his vents thoroughly every night because he wants to go home and snuggle with his kids. So it's kind of one of those like, oh, you're rooting for him, but you also know that maybe he's not the best. That's Biggie. And then we've got some of our more tertiary characters. Kevin, he's been serving for over a decade, has 3 teenage kids, and never has a good day. He is Dumbo. If you know Dumbo from Winnie the Pooh, he's just, he's always so sad and he's always so not, he's just not having a good day. Okay. Lisa is a part-time yoga instructor and she's always so zenned out because she's also a major pothead. And that's just Lisa. She is always stoned, but she does her job. And then we've got Bailey. She is a server who's newly 22 and taking classes at the local university. She's bubbly and never stresses over the restaurant because she knows that she's not going to be here in 4 years. All right, let's get to our pilot. I again would like to start the episodes with a pre-shift meeting. So I would like to start with Steve snorting a line of cocaine off the sink in the men's bathroom and then staring at himself for an uncomfortably long minute and then telling himself that he's a great boss and he does a great job. And it's just like his mantra. He has to do this every day and he has to convince himself that he's a good person because he knows deep down inside that he's not. And then we cut to the pre-shift. He speed walks over to the private dining room where the servers always gather to start their shift. He informs them that Ken's Steakhouse has transitioned to a new computer system. He asks them to be patient with the new technology and to inform him of any hiccups they encounter. So he thinks that, like, the only hiccups that are going to happen are maybe we're missing a sauce button or the price is wrong on something. What he doesn't understand is that the cloud isn't hooked up right. The credit card machines haven't exactly been working well with the computer system. So every person who runs a card, they're actually not, the transaction is actually not going through. And he's not going to know that until the very end of the night. So he's thinking of like little small things that he can tweak with the computer system, and it's actually much bigger than that. Um, we're ending the episode with a busy Saturday night, and the system was nowhere near ready. The older servers can't figure out the technology. They don't understand how to use the touch screen right. And the Gen Z servers are growing impatient with the older servers. Steve is MIA the entire episode, and the kitchen is only receiving half of the orders for the night because the computer system is only sending them to half of the printers in the kitchen. So it's just a mess, it's a typical night in a restaurant. And then I put together a little timeline of some of the episodes. So here we are. The pilot again starts off. Steve informs the staff of the new computer system named Aloha. Everything is running smoothly while the staff familiarizes themselves with the system. So you're like in good spirits. Everybody's happy. They're excited. The restaurant starts to grow a little bit busier, and half of the computers go completely down, and everybody loses their mind. The old guys think that the world is ending, and the younger kids are just like, they don't care. They do not care. Staff is looking to Steve for direction. He's nowhere to be found because he's blowing lines, and tables are getting really angry because they're not getting food. They are getting the wrong food. They can't find their servers because their servers are freaking out in the kitchen. The kitchen is screaming at the servers, and the tables can hear everything happening in the dining room. The episode ends with Bill, the head server, 60-year-old guy, smashing a credit card machine because it wouldn't stop beeping. Um, I see this a lot when I'm at the grocery store and the old people like put their card in the card reader and it's beeping over and over so that they can take their card out and they don't know what's happening and they get really frustrated and then someone has to tell them that they have to take their card out. And so I just thought this would be super relatable and very funny. Um, that he would smash the credit card machine because he was almost there. It was just telling him to remove the card, but he just couldn't take it anymore. Valentine's Day, I would like this episode to cold open to a line of people waiting for their table. They all have reservations, but they're still waiting to get sat. The host is answering dozens of phone calls saying, "Can steakhouse please hold? Can steakhouse please hold?" Servers are screaming and servers are running around the restaurant. The kitchen is screaming in Spanish because nobody ever speaks English in every restaurant I've ever worked at. And the camera pans to the outside of the men's bathroom door with the sound of Steve sniffing cocaine. So you've got all this chaos, everything happening, and then he just can't handle it, and he's got to go do some coke. Um, the pre-shift meeting, I would like to do the cold open so you know what to expect, and then I would like to jump back to the beginning of the episode, how it's supposed to begin. Time jumps back to the pre-shift meeting where Steve is informing the staff that Aloha is now running smoothly. He warns them of the possibility of running out of steak because of budget cuts. Again, this is on Valentine's Day at a steakhouse, and he's warning them that they're going to run out of steak and suggests that the servers push the fish option. Um, we're going to tie up the episode with the restaurant running out of steak, and the fish option led to multiple guests getting sick. And the servers head to the bar across the street at the end to debrief the nightmare of Valentine's Day. This is just like another service industry ritual. There's usually some bar nearby the restaurant where servers like to go and debrief the night. That's just something that I've seen. So I thought that would be another little relatable thing for viewers that are also in the service industry. Here's another little timeline. The phone is ringing nonstop. Restaurant fills with couples. The servers are attempting to call dibs on the steaks to sell to their tables. And so like you've got like a whole like auction going on in the kitchen while the kitchen is like trying to prep and people are starting to walk in. The bartenders were never told about the low count on steak and they ended up selling all of them. The kitchen is blasting music while taking over 30 minutes on salad courses, and the tickets are just printing and printing and printing, and they do not care. It's not that they don't care, they're just very overwhelmed. And Steve's solution is free dessert for each table to apologize for the steak shortage. And the dessert are tiny pieces of chocolate cake with nuts on it. So they don't have like a nut allergy replacement. Everybody just gets chocolate cake with nuts. Heating, we've got a problem. Again, this is the episode where the heaters don't work and it's freezing cold outside. And this actually happened to me. The episode begins with Steve informing the staff that the heaters in the restaurant are not working and it is 28 degrees in Texas. Um, I also think it's crucial for the show to be in Texas because 28 degrees in Texas is not normal. And so if the show were somewhere up north and you have an episode where it's cold, it's not gonna hit home like it will here. Um, Solution is adding tea lights to all the tables. The servers are crowding around the ovens in the kitchen to keep warm. The guests are holding their hands over the tea lights to try and stay warm as well. And again, they're tea lights. They're not actually emitting very much heat. The guests are extremely uncomfortable while dining due to the cold. The servers are mad at management yet again, and Steve decides to hand out coupons for free calamari upon the next visit as a solution to no heat. Um, We've got another timeline here. Oh, Steve arrives to work and can see his breath form clouds from how cold it is inside of the restaurant. He then instructs the servers to place candles on each table to create warmth. The servers ignore their tables because they're hanging out in front of the ovens to stay cold. Biggie, our sous chef, makes a pot of hot chocolate. Again, he's the dad. He's taking care of everybody. And he throws in some hooch for everybody. He knows that the day is bad enough and everybody needs to feel warm and fuzzy inside. And then by the end of the episode, the staff is very warm and bubbly by the end. The guests are furious with their coupons, but ideally this would be kind of like a Christmas episode. So, they're all the staff is just very happy. They're feeling good with their boozy hot chocolate and they come together and say like this is what Christmas is all about. And that's dished. I hope you liked it. This was a lot of fun to make. Um like I said, for years my coworkers and I have been saying that we need a TV show and we need to write down everything that's happened because I mean this is just a small glimpse into what we've experienced. So yeah, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed making this and I hope it was just as entertaining for you as well.